Edo State Governor Amadi Okpebholo has warned 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi against visiting the state without prior approval. This marks the second time an APC-led state has cautioned Mr. Obi over his visits, even when they are for humanitarian reasons. In a viral video, Okpebholo emphasized that Obi's security would not be guaranteed if he enters without informing the state government. He also questioned the source of 15 million naira that Peter Obi reportedly donated during a previous visit, pointing to inconsistencies between Obi's financial claims and his actions. Following the backlash generated by the threat, the governor clarified that his comments were about security protocols, not politics. He stressed his duty as the state's chief security officer to ensure proper arrangement for high-profile visits. Well, the director for Abuja School of Social and Political Thoughts, Dr. Sam Amadi, now joins us to discuss the threat by the Edo State Governor Okpebholo to ban Peter Obi from the state. Do governors have such powers to bar a Nigerian from coming to their states, and what remedies are available to address the situation? Dr. Amadi will be providing insights to these and more. Lovely to have you on this afternoon, Dr. Amadi. My question to you will begin with the actual threat.
Thank you, Kachi.
Thank you so much, sir. Looking at this situation legally, say, for instance, a matter was to be brought to court against a threat to life. Analyzing the statement by the governor, would you say this initial statement he made was a threat to life or a security advice?
Thank you for having me. Again, I don't think anybody needs to dispute what the intent and meaning of what is said, what it amounted to. First, it's not an advisory, and maybe we know that many of the state governors, or a few of them actually, may not be conversant with public sector protocol. Advisories are general statements issued mostly in writing, addressing people's according to people's knowledge, attention, some deteriorating or status quo security situation. So an advisory would be something that says, because of worsening security in Edo State, which would be an indictment to the government anyway, we advise, just like what the US issues and the UK all the time, we advise all Americans not to come to Nigeria at this particular time, or advise those who are coming to Nigeria to avoid social sport. We advise them to make it. So it's an advisory that's general in nature that says this is the situation. Now, this was a rally addressed to party faithfuls in a campaign. And he didn't just say, we want to advise Peter Obi. He says Peter Obi came to this town. There was every venom, every angst, every political intolerance. It's about politics. He came in this town without basically saying, we don't want him to come to this town because we don't want him to politicize. We don't want him to campaign here. And when he now descended to the ridiculous, almost contemptible and idiotic, clearly, saying, oh, somebody gave 15 million. He said he doesn't give shishi. Even myself can give 15 million to a cause. So I think that the whole sentence suggests, I don't think that the governor at this point is intent on bodily harming Peter Obi, but I think it mirrors a certain temper, political temper now, that says we don't want people to campaign. We don't want them to lose. And again, this was mirrored again by his SSA, who says, Edo is APC state. We don't want anybody to campaign here. Then the next day, the chairman of APC in Edo State and in a press conference says that only PDP, the PDP that have cannibalized and basically destroyed, only PDP and APC can campaign here. We don't recognize any other party. So this is clear now whose script it was. This is about politics, but a dangerous version of politics that is both foreclosing democratic rights, both promising maximum violence. And the end result, and that's what worries somebody like us who in Abuja school will be monitoring. We have a series on deepening democracy, and we are worried about example from Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. And we are thinking around rebuilding the resilience, Nigerian democratic resilience. And we are saying that democracy is eroding. Nigeria, in the latest Verity of Democracy report, Vivendum, the World Global Authoritative Report on Democracy, Nigeria has moved from hybrid to electoral autocracy. And maybe the next report to 2025 will show Nigeria as what they call closed autocracy. That means this is no more elections. It's now autocracy. So the comment by the Edo State governor, reinforced by his SSA and reinforced by the chairman of the ruling party in Edo State, to say nobody should campaign in this state apart from our captured PDP and APC, is a war against democracy and tells a story. If I was a researcher in Washington getting this story, or if I was working for the embassy, any of the British American embassy, I would be checklisting and say, look, clearly this country is no longer democratic anymore because this is a formal closure of competition. And what is driving this is the neurosis. There's a certain neurotic aspect of people who are afraid of losing power. Maybe in retrospect, Jonathan, who allowed APC to come together, registered APC when it was a threat to his political stronghold, allowed them to run for election, and allowed them to defeat him, is now a canonized saint. And we're going to enter into an era of darkness when we will see, or what we are seeing now, brutal closure of the civic space. It has moved from P2B should not visit Edo without my authority. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is totally beyond maybe beyond his comprehension as well as his power as a governor. Nothing like that. Even the president of Nigeria has no power to issue directives to a Nigerian on when to visit, how to visit. The highest he can do, if he thinks the person is so important, you can accord him security privileges, like, you can say, okay, sir, when you come, we're going to give you contingent of police officers. And that is a discretion. But every Nigerian is free to work without security and move around at his or her own risk, provided you have normal state protection, which is that the police and the SSS have a responsibility to protect the civic security for everybody. So that the governor functions to think that he has a capacity to say nobody should enter except my permission. And it's not that they're attending public event. This is walking into a school to support a charity, which the governor should actually be happy and say, in spite of political differences, we welcome support to institutions in our state. So we're living in an era now of very heightened hate speech. And it started in 2023 with the Lagos phenomenon, where some voters were asked, don't vote. And we've seen some social media posting of government officials say, if you're not going to vote for APC in our state, don't vote. In the last local government election in Lagos State, we got a report where they said the only party recognized is PDP or APC. We recognize a lame dog, almost dead cadaver party and ourselves. Okay. If you're going to be coalition, I think this is what worries us as a political, as a school, that Nigerian democracy is trending towards a calamitous level where we might have what we call full autocracy that will elicit maximum violent reaction. And that would be bad for the country. Absolutely.
Well said, Dr. Amadi. You stated that we're practicing a dangerous version of politics at the moment, and you're witnessing a time of heightened hate speech from what we saw during the 2023 elections till now. I'm just wondering, based on this supposed new version of dangerous politics that we're practicing, what precedent does it set for other governors or other states that are APC run that have witnessed this to maybe even toe a similar line?
Absolutely. And it won't be only for presidential politics. It's going to now cascade to state politics and local politics. So you're going to see governors perhaps whose control of the state is weak, or who think that, who are not governing well. And of course, once you are failing in delivering governance, you could be removed through, contest. So many of these governors will now, go there and say, and be utterly repressive against their opponents in the state. This is very funny because the only thing about democracy that survives all the critique is the idea that you can actually vote out incumbents. Now, what we are doing is a dangerous democracy where incumbents say you can't vote us out. We prescribe speech, we prescribe gathering, we prescribe even voting. We saw in 2023 some governors of states over-regulating campaign and say, look, before you can even put a poster, you have to pay 100 million. Now, targeted at the small parties, or they even refuse, the regulator in the state will refuse you putting a signage, or they even authorize their signage to be destroyed. We saw even during the tribunal allegations of people beating up witnesses and those who want to go for tribunal. I think that we're going to see this is going to be a dangerous, and why it's dangerous is this: the complicity or criminal indifference of state institutions with the responsibility to track and punish and deter is what is. Now, since this happened, we've not seen anything from the National Security Advisor. The National Security Advisor's office is the security, is advisory that would have said, you know what, this is really not respected. We don't want that. The Nigerian police, the IG himself, you see them talk about threat to security. I mean, if a journalist writes something, they slam him with cyber crime offense. But look at public officials posting on X, happily saying, in fact, the chairman of APC said, the governor is right because we who hate Peter Obi, he said, we will hate him. If he comes to this state, the governor may have to send us on a run. Otherwise, we'll be there and we'll hit him, we'll deal with him. This is a chairman of a party saying that they hate somebody, and it's good that the person doesn't come. Because if he comes, a chairman of a party said he will mobilize violence and deal with that person. And the IG has not come to say, that is not an acceptable speech. That is hate crime that you should prosecute through cybercrime. But just as journalists might say something and they take the person off. So I think that the Office of National Security Advisor and the IG are implicated, and they're implicated by their silence. They're implicated because, so what they're going to create now is, look at what's going to happen. I saw Kenneth Okonkwo speak earlier this morning on this channel. I said something to the effect that, they are saying this because Obi is from the Southeast. If Obi was, he said so. He said if it was a Yoruba, Southwest, or a Northerner, they won't say that. No. So he has entered into an ethnic dimension which can now spiral into people saying there is now an attack against Obi because he's Igbo. Or it becomes a case of they're doing this because Obi is not capable of mobilizing or unwilling to mobilize violence. So you wait for an Atiku Abubakar, who is his principal. Are you saying something like, if it was Atiku? Now, what's going to happen is that you're going to see people build private violence, militia. And I have wondered, in modern globalized states, countries, no longer have monopoly of violence the way they used to have. We are struggling for the past 8 years or more with Boko Haram, a ragtag, nondescript private army. We are dealing with all these issues across the country, non-government, and we're not able to wrestle them down. And I want to further create spirals of violence so that private actors say the only way to win 2027, and people are saying so, you know what, Tinubu is in charge, he controls the state, the military, these guys are not your usual Jonathan. That's what they say. Now what that means is that to win them, we now have to produce violence as a scale. So my fear is that those who are doing this and those who are not stopping them are actually, unwittingly perhaps, procuring violence at a scale. So we're going to see in 2037, we are private people who have the capacity. We produce violence to fight state force that is itself violent against citizens. And that's what we're going to head into. I think this is a time now to dismantle this infrastructure of terror against citizens and against the opposition party.
Yes.
And that's where we are now.
Thank you so much for your analysis, Dr. Sam Amadi. This has been an interesting discourse so far. Well.